Gonna talk wrestling, Josh. We're gonna get to AEW Revolution, but let's first recap a show that you thought was very predictable, gonna be very boring. We both kind of knew the results of these matches going in, but I thought overall it was a very good show. I didn't think it was spectacular by any means. I didn't think it was an A show. I thought it was a very solid show. It was exactly what I thought. The tag team title match was way better than I thought it would be. And I thought both Elimination Chamber matches absolutely delivered. And that's sort of my big takeaway from the show here as we ended it in the WrestleMania season.
I only watched highlights and recaps of the show. I haven't actually gone back and watched the full thing, but I know what happened. And I have been saying for a while that it's going to be AJ Styles versus LA Knight at WrestleMania.
Yes, you have. And you were right on that, and I give you that.
Thank you.
But I will say this. I don't know if it's written in stone. It's just going to be them two one-on-one. Do they add LA Knight and Randy Orton to those two, as I've been saying, and make it a fatal four-way? Do they have Kevin Owens in there as well?
See, I have a little bit of a different take on this. So I'm glad you brought up both Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. Because Kevin Owens and Logan Paul clearly are not done with their feud.
Correct.
And you saw a lot of interaction between Logan Paul and Randy Orton.
So you think it's going to be a triple threat between those three?
Yes.
Which I absolutely could see. By the way, I think it's a way you can protect Randy. You can have Kevin pin Logan Paul, because I don't think Randy needs to be champion at this point.
No.
So I think Kevin winning the title, if Logan Paul takes the pin, Randy's not involved in the decision, I can get that booking. What I am struggling with, and I told you this, before, what do you do with a guy like Bobby Lashley? You can't leave him off the WrestleMania card again.
Probably carrying Cross.
And that's not going to be a WrestleMania match, I don't think, unless they have bigger plans for Cross. I still think that maybe Logan, Lashley, Orton, Owens, they are in a multi-man match. Maybe Carmelo Hayes, maybe a Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. And
I don't think Carmelo Hayes is going to be in there.
That's fair.
Because of his feud with Trick Williams.
No, that's fair.
Which, let me just say this super, 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 super quick. I know that the feud between Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes is going to play out on NXT. I understand that. But if they wanted to pull the trigger and do that match at WrestleMania, I think you could totally justify it. I really do.
You could, but I think there's just too many spots to go around.
No, and that's fair. They'll probably do it at Stand and Deliver, which I'm not opposed to. I'm just putting the idea out there. But I want to get to the women's Elimination Chamber match because
you last week said I think they should put Shayna Baszler in the match and take out Tiffany Stratton when Tiffany Stratton stole the damn show.
Yes, I'm eating my words about that. But I'll tell you this: we thought maybe at the Royal Rumble they were going to do Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill. Are they now teasing maybe a Bianca Belair versus Tiffany Stratton match going into WrestleMania?
I think that could be potentially. Maybe you do Jade Cargill versus Nia Jax. I think, obviously when that interaction from the Royal Rumble, I think that's a scenario. I think also just Bianca teaming up with Naomi and going after the tag team titles is another scenario they could do. I thought Liv and Raquel were going to break up and go into a feud, which, well, they didn't do that. They weren't tag team partners either. And it's clear that Raquel is going to be sort of solo, and I think Liv Morgan may be the one who's sort of playing a tweener character here between Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. Now, I think you got to keep that Rhea-Becky match one-on-one.
Yes, for sure.
Liv moves on to face, probably Becky. Maybe Liv becomes the heel and Becky's first challenger when she knocks off Mommy, as Rhea maybe takes a little bit of a break and they go into a potential Judgment Day breakup storyline where she's away from the title for a little bit. I have so many scenarios. I think this is one of the best times, and I've said this recently, not just as a WWE, but as a wrestling fan as a whole, but specifically speaking to WWE right now. We do not know, and this is what is so great about Triple H and his team running creative right now. Under the old regime, WrestleMania would be 3 weeks away sometimes, and we wouldn't even know what the hell the matches are going to be or the storylines they'd feel thrown together.
Yeah, I feel that way as an AEW fan sometimes.
This year, and I think you agree with me, this year's different. This year feels like there has been concrete plans in place, and while some things have changed, and I do believe that the Lesnar and CM Punk injuries and the Seth Rollins injury completely flipped, because I don't know if you saw the report about the old leaked Elimination Chamber card. It was a completely different card than the one we got this past Saturday in Perth. It was going to be Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre in a one-on-one match. CM Punk was going to win the men's Elimination Chamber match. Seth Rollins was going to defend the World Championship against Bronson Reed. And then the Grayson Waller effect segment was going to be with a face Rock, who would have then went on to face Roman at WrestleMania, obviously. So,
and I think they were going to do like Brock Lesnar versus Dom.
Brock versus Dom. So the whole card got changed around within a matter of weeks, which is why you said last week didn't feel like a stadium show. I think they did the best they could under the circumstances.
Sure, I'll give them that.
And I thought that crowd, by the way, was absolutely great. And I thought it was a great show for what it was. But it just goes to show you, we're talking about all these scenarios for the U.S. title. What's going to happen with Gunther in the Intercontinental Championship? It looks like we're heading towards Judgment Day and Truth and Miz for the Truth and Miz for the undisputed tag team titles. Who's going to win Cody and Roman? Which again, we have a lot to divulge with that. There's so much going into this WrestleMania that it's so fun because it almost feels like, and I've said this over the last couple of weeks, Triple H and the creative team are working the dirt sheets.
Yes. I think that's why we're not doing I think that's why we're not doing Rock versus Roman. I think WWE heard all the negative reaction to that and they pivoted back to Cody versus Roman. But that's just my personal opinion on that.
Now, let me ask you this question, because this is still with the Elimination Chamber.
Go ahead.
Do you still think the night one main event of Mania is going to be the tag team match? Or do you think it will be a one-on-one match? Because I think it is very possible between just Cody and Rock.
No, the way Seth has been kind of checking in on Cody recently, and they did the Grayson Waller effect together, and they had that little promo thing like a week or so ago. I do think it's going to be the tag match that headlines. Although, if it were me, I would actually have that open night one.
No, you do not. The Rock doesn't go anywhere but the main event. No. It doesn't matter what you think, because The Rock is not going anywhere but the main event of WrestleMania.
The only reason I'm saying that is because you know how big the match or the program is going to be between Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley. So if you wanted to pull the trigger and have that be the main event of night one, I think you could justify that.
You could if The Rock and Roman Reigns aren't on the damn card.
That's fair. But I just wanted to put that idea out there of having Rhea and Becky main event night one.
Again, if this match doesn't take place at all, yes, I agree with you. That's an option. Also, if you wanted to do the World Heavyweight Championship match on night one, that's an option as well as the main event. But I think that match is going to be on night two, which I think will ultimately lead us to a very interesting main event of night 2 of WrestleMania. I'm going to leave it at that. I already have my opinion on what's going to go down in that main event. I have thought about it over the last week.
We shall see, because don't forget, Damian Priest is still hanging around with the Money in the Bank briefcase.
I think Damian Priest will cash in on night 2. I'll leave it at that.
It'll be interesting, but I'll have to go back and watch Elimination Chamber at some point, and I probably will. But from what I heard, it was a good show, like a B plus. So
that's exactly what I rated. It was a B plus.
Fair enough. You know, like Elimination Chamber has never really been one of WWE's like big four. I would say WrestleMania is obviously one of the big four. Royal Rumble, SummerSlam. I'm trying to think what the fourth one would be.
I would say Money in the Bank. I think Money in the Bank is a big four. And if you want to put Survivor Series in, I personally love the War Games concept.
Oh, I love the War Games concept. I think it's so good.
I think it's brought Survivor Series back to its former glory, but I think Survivor Series and Money in the Bank are sort of interchangeable as sort of that front four. I'll also add this. When they've done their big Labor Day weekend show, whether it's in Clash of the Castle or this year, the show that's going to be in Berlin, those have always typically been big shows. As Backlash the last couple of years, they've gone now to France this year and obviously last year Puerto Rico.
Yes. But I think we agree on like the first three: Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam as part of the big three. And I wouldn't say Money in the Bank because I know Triple H has said he wants to put that match on WrestleMania night one.
No, actually, you're wrong. He said the opposite.
I thought at one point he was saying
there were rumors that came out last year that he wanted to put it on WrestleMania, and he shut that completely down. He said Money in the Bank has clearly taken on a life of its own, and it has become such a big concept that it's needed its own event.
Huh. Because I remember him saying I thought I remembered him saying at a press conference or something along the lines of, nobody's ever going to say, I challenge you to a Money in the Bank ladder match or something. I thought I remember him
He might have said that very early on when he first took over creative, because I remember he was talking about Extreme Rules and how they were going to go away from the gimmick pay-per-views. That's what he was talking about.
Because didn't they get rid of the Hell in a Cell?
That's what he was talking about. He was talking about Hell in a Cell. He said nobody is going to want to have a random feud inside Hell in a Cell. He said, we'll look at Money in the Bank potentially, but then he added that Money in the Bank has become such a big event that it will probably stay its own pay-per-view.
Fair enough.
All right, well, Mr. AEW guy, take us through AEW Revolution.
Yeah, so AEW Revolution is going down this Sunday from the Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina. We've got some really good matches on the card. We've got Sting and Darby Allin defending the AEW World Tag Team Championships against the EVPs, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, the Young Bucks, which I love their new EVP gimmick that they have going on right now. It is absolutely hilarious. It's great. We also have the triple threat match for the AEW World Championship. Hangman Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland versus Samoa Joe, the current world champion. Hopefully Swerve Strickland wins that match. We've got Deonna Purrazzo versus Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship. Unfortunately, that is the only women's match on the card, which as an AEW fan and as a wrestling fan in general, that's really disappointing. I would have loved to have seen at least a second women's match get added. We also have FTR versus Claudio Castagnoli and Jon Moxley. I think that's going to be a fantastic tag team match. I love Dax Harwood. Claudio Castagnoli is just great. And John Moxley's just insane, the former Dean Ambrose. We know what he did in WWE, and he has just continued to be a workhorse in AEW. We've got Christian Cage versus Daniel Garcia for the TNT Championship in what should be a solid match. Eddie Kingston is defending the Continental Crown against Bryan Danielson in a grudge match. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything.
Did you mention Christian Cage for the TNT Championship?
Yes, I did. We've got some all-star 8-man scramble match. Chris Jericho, Lance Archer, I think, is in it. Powerhouse Hobbs. Wardlow.
I think there's four. There's 4 names. I think there's 2 that have not been announced.
Yeah. And the winner gets a shot at the AEW World Championship. So I don't get what's happening with that. And we have Will Ospreay making his AEW debut, going against Don Callis, another member of the Don Callis family, Konosuke Takeshita, in what should be an absolutely fantastic match. I think I got all the matches on the card. I think the match that I'm most interested in, outside of the World Championship match, because I really am a big Swerve Strickland fan, so I hope he wins that. But I'm really interested in the FTR versus BCC match, because they had a match like a week or so ago. No, 2 weeks ago on Dynamite, and it went to a time limit draw. So I thought they were going to do the rematch on Revolution, which is what they're doing. But I thought they would put some type of stipulation on it, whether it was a 30-minute Iron Man match or a 2 out of 3 falls match. Nope. There's no stipulation on it. It's just a regular match. So how is this match going to go? I have nothing against Cash Wheeler, but I just really like Dax Harwood, Claudio Castagnoli, and John Moxley, who you're also very familiar with from his time in WWE.
I was never the biggest fan of Dean Ambrose as John Moxley. I'm going to throw it out there. I was a bigger fan of Rollins than Reigns during the Shield days.
You know what? That's fair. Dean Ambrose, I think he was a very acquired taste because of his character. So he was.
I liked him. I just never thought he was world championship material. Let me put it that way.
Fair enough. He's definitely proven to be world championship material in AEW because he's been world champion
And by the way, in my opinion, he's been a real leader. He's been a grown up when certainly the guy running the company is not. And certainly when you need guys and veterans and a lot of stuff that you have alluded to a little bit that have happened in AEW, I think Moxley arguably is the MVP. And the first guy you think of, it used to be Jericho, and I think now with everything that's happened with Jericho, it's not him anymore. And
Jericho is also in that all-star scramble match.
Yeah, and you had mentioned that, but I do think Moxley, especially ever since Cody Rhodes left the company, which I think has left a huge void in the company that they have not recovered from. I think Moxley has been the guy in AEW.
And I'll give you that. We got a comment here. Christian needs a new gimmick. He needs to stop making fun of people with dead fathers. It's honestly repetitive and stupid at this point. I'm actually going to leave that comment up because I want to respond to that. You're meant to not like him. He's meant to be an asshole and really be this heel character. So the fact that you're saying that shows that his gimmick is working. So I understand what you're saying, Jalen, but at the same time, you're kind of buying into what Christian Cage is selling, if that makes sense.
Hey, I'm just going to sit here and just say that my buddy, Adam Copeland, has not been booked right since he became All Elite. That's all I'll say. I don't get why this isn't a rematch with Christian. The whole
I
thing with
think it's because Adam Copeland is injured right now, so
the
that's
the whole thing with Nick Wayne's mom just is stupid. I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense. I don't care for it. I think it's ridiculous. And I don't think he's been booked like the star he really is in AEW. That's all I'm saying.
fair. I'm even though I like AEW more than WWE, I'm not going to sit here and say everything is perfect in AEW and
I
you
think
know
my biggest criticism about AEW is what WWE used to do with its talent that came up from NXT, which is completely bring them up and make them a big deal for 1 week and then never care about them again.
and I totally hear you on that one and I totally get what you're saying. Um let me just say this. In terms of Swerve, the reason I think AEW, specifically Tony Khan, needs to pull the trigger and give Swerve the title now at Revolution is because he's never going to get hotter than he is right now. Do you remember when Sami Zayn turned on Roman at the Royal Rumble? He got over extremely quickly after that.
Well, he was over before that, but that was one of the biggest massive pops you've ever heard in the history of the sport.
Sure, but like he was not at that point. His momentum got turned up from like a 10 to like a 50 at least,
I
right?
agree. Okay, go on.
So my point though is he was so over. I think WWE made a mistake by not giving him the title. That's just my opinion.
I'm not debating that right now. Make your point on Swerve.
So, but it's the same thing. Did Swerve have a big changing moment like Sammy did? No, but if you don't pull the trigger on him now, I think he's going to lose some of that momentum.
Well,
So
in AEW, outside of the whole Punk thing, when he was only champion for a few days, most of their champions have very long title runs, especially the world champion. So it'd be a nice change of pace to have a championship reign that wasn't so long.
right. And I hate when people say, "Oh, Samoa Joe would be a transitional champion because he only had one championship defense." That doesn't mean he's a transitional champion. It just means he had a shorter title reign. Like, so what? It's fine.